Hey everybody, let's talk about affirmative action. Probably one of the most challenging words we hear, affirmative action. It has many negative connotations. It shouldn't, but it has many negative connotations. One of the words that come to mind is quotas. Affirmative action basically means that there has been discrimination in the past, and in order to address and to correct that discrimination in the past, then organizations must take affirmative steps, affirmative actions to address the discrimination that has occurred in the past. For the most part, it's specific to certain organizations or industries. Not everybody's under an affirmative action mandate, but because of real discrimination in the past, there is an intention that there's an extra step, an affirmative step. There's additional steps that the organization must take in order to address any kinds of discriminations in the past. There's been much that has benefited in terms of affirmative action. There's been much, it's not only employees, but organizations as well. There's been organizations that have become diversified, more diversified, because of affirmative action mandates that have occurred. So as you can see, there's much to applaud for that. There's been some controversy from that, and part of that has been that there's some that have felt that they have not obtained a position because somebody else obtained a position. In other words, because of perceived discriminations in the past, real discriminations in the past, organizations have had to give preferences, quotas to certain individuals. Whether they're most qualified or not, the issue is they've had to give some kind of preference to that. That issue is largely less pronounced as it was 30 years ago. Part of that has become that our society has become much more not just tolerant, not just accepting, but certainly welcoming of a greater sense of diversity within our workplace. There's no doubt that when we use the word diversity, we mean more than just somebody in terms of race or gender. It really means in ideas. And that brings up a point I always bring up about diversity. Morally and ethically, you should always give the best person the job. You should never discriminate against anybody based on their protected or just any characteristic other than can they do the job. Because if you don't give somebody who's best qualified for that job, because of some discrimination, because of some bias that you have, then as I always say, that person's going to go to a different company. They're going to go to your competitor. They're going to take their great talents, their considerable talents, and it's going to benefit another company, not yours. And that's why I often say that any kind of discriminations, harassments, has real consequences. Not just moral and ethical, not just impedes your ability to be a good person, to be the type of person that you want to be the kind of person that you want to hold in front of your children and friends and family and saying, be this type of person, be like me. But it also talks about that it has financial implications as well, that the organization is not going to do well because they're treating people differently than they really should. And if you treat your employees differently, you can bet that that organization is going to treat their customers differently too, because of their protected or unprotected characteristic. It's going to be pervasive, and it's going to affect the long-term viability, promotability, profitability, and performance of the organization. That's something that you definitely want to avoid. So, affirmative action has some positive merits to it. It's perceived negatively, though it shouldn't. And there's been many people, organizations, industries, and cultures who's benefited. The key is that you have to make sure that whenever you use any kind of law that's meant to address discriminations or harassments in the past, that you do so knowing that it's the right thing to do, that it makes the world a better place, and it makes businesses even more profitable. Everybody wins in these situations. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the day.